to respond to the comment that you made, that it's surprising how much information is still attainable through the process after the initial contact from the spirit world. Back in the year 2020, when I was first informed, contacted, connected, inspired, impressed is probably the best word here, but all of them are very relevant. It's just that I'm trying to take it from conspiracy theorist woo-woo back to earth and truth. There's nothing like a good conspiracy theory until it's proven not to be a conspiracy, but factual. That will never cease to amuse me in any way, shape or form. In 2020, I was impressed, informed, communicated with. It's a dual conversation between myself and the spirit world. And what I was informed of is that we know your life position, your circumstances. We know that you are extraordinarily busy / distracted, because at this stage I was a full-time carer for my mother, so there was no me. So the identity of myself was no longer Arthur. My name was Carer. And the very little hours that I had the luxury to sleep, it's kind of amazing how you can put sleep and the word luxury in the same sentence and not make it sound ridiculous, considering sleep is a natural biological requirement of the human system for many, many reasons. But I will remind you that I used to get 3, 4, maximum of 5 hours sleep per night. All the other time was mum time, meaning I'm a carer. My only focus was on someone else. Put that into context, and you will understand why the downloaded communication was, we know you're extraordinarily busy. But we will work with you. You have the capacity, because we're working with you, to pick up your pen meaning either writing things down or doing the portraiture. And then, because of life, circumstances, and all the rest of it, we know you're going to put it down because you can't dedicate the required amount of time to complete these things. But all you need to do is call us back, ask us to step back in. Because we want to work with you. Also, I was informed that those who present themselves to be drawn actually desire to be drawn. They know what you can do. They know what you're capable of. But they also know the parameters in which you work under, meaning your strengths and your weaknesses. And they are happy to come in and out and in and out and work with you. Nobody who does not want to be depicted or seen will present themselves, because there are many more in that line that are happily waiting for their story to be documented and shown to the world. Now, 2020 at this stage was 6 years ago. We are now in 2026. It's only now that I'm fully grasping, even more so, of the validity and the weight of what was said back then. To answer your question very clearly, is I got gifted access, permission to work in a certain way based on the mechanics of who I am. And because of my maintenance of authenticity, pure love and respect for the nature of what I do, access clearly has still been granted. Now, I got told, you're not doing what anyone else is doing. You're doing something entirely different. And I couldn't quite get my head around what that meant. It's April 2026. And I'm suddenly in an environment of fresh air. You know what that means. I know what that means, but I'm fully planning on actually posting this out into the greater world, so we will keep the fresh air stuff as a need to know basis. But I can envisage people's imaginations. Humans have a wonderful imagination. Now, it's taken me a very long time to understand the initial download, which before 2020 was when, like 2020 was the year. It was June 2020. I have the blue folder which I wrote June 2020 was the first time I got contacted about portraiture. And of course I thought that was ridiculous because I could not draw a face for the life of me. I was artistic, but not like that. In fact, my discussion was, you've lost your mind. You've got the wrong person. Not only can I not draw a face, but you spoke about photos of the spirit world. And I'm like, in my mind, I could not fathom creating photorealistic portraiture of anything in my entire lifetime. So you can well imagine the discussion, the big skepticism, the stank face I was giving energetically to the world of spirit, thinking you have completely the wrong person. But I laugh because it's 2026, and just for anyone else who doesn't know what I'm doing, I'm actually looking at a construction of a photorealistic portrait, which cannot be completed in 5 hours. And anyone out there who has ever produced something of that quality would tell you it's not really, 5 hours is not, it's nothing. Excuse me. So the download, the first contact I had was in 2018. That was the first time that I got told, this is before portraiture was ever mentioned, that what you will be doing is something very, very different. And of course, I had no idea what that meant. I even had a couple of readings done with some truly amazing mediums, verified mediums of absolute top quality. One or two of those became my mentors. But it was one or two of those also. I say a couple, but you know, it's more than a couple. Because this information came out over a span of time. When the student's ready, the teacher appears. When the student's ready, the teacher disappears. People need to sit with that to understand what that actually means. And it's a truth that only is verifiable through experience. The words don't actually mean anything. I personally believe that we are the student and the teacher through our entire lifetime. In business contexts and worldly affairs and blah blah, people like to say, I'm an expert at this, or like to put a title to things. The only reason I put title on anything is so that people understand the genre of my life focus. But I don't particularly a title is not the reason to do something. And also there's a limiting ceiling placed upon a human being when they label themselves as an expert. Because now, somewhere in their psychology, they know it all. Which means somewhere in their psychology they may actually disregard the understanding that maybe the expansion of their expertise would benefit from not being the expert, but being the student. So I don't like to say or promote that I'm an expert. I am just someone with a particular set of expanding skill sets, and will forever continue to expand upon what I have been gifted. So 2018, you will be doing, what you will be doing will be something different to what everyone else is doing. You can imagine how against the grain that statement is by those who are mentoring you to be part of a system. It's no fault of their own, and it was no fault of mine either, for making what seemed to be grandiose statements at the time. I laugh because I see the humour behind all of this. Coffee, beautiful. Now, there's one particular beautiful medium who, after my mum passed away, I reached out to. And I mentioned my portraiture, and I mentioned reading objects. I don't know whether you heard the knock. It's just me, myself and I here. And she said to me, you're not working off the kinetic energy of the object. But you have to discover through your process, and you will only discover through your process what that means. That reading was approximately 2 years ago. My mum's been passed away for 3 years. But in the scheme of things it makes sense, because I've been able to connect to objects on the other side of the planet, regardless of the false feedback. Some people do things not in other people's best interests, but in their own. And sometimes language is a barrier. And English is my second language. When I get given the reference of a rag doll, meaning download, interpretation, give it, I'm not going to change that. And then someone completely denies that they've ever owned a rag doll. but then endeavours to tell people on a different occasion that they owned a strawberry shortcake doll. I begin to get a little bit of amusement. And then when you mention something to them after they've said something, they blatantly and fiercely deny that they ever had a rag doll. AI says, technically, a strawberry shortcake doll is not a rag doll because it has a material body but a plastic head, cast plastic head. That's the lost in translation, where language, physical, geographical, contextual differences, culturally, even within English-speaking nations, there's a whole different cultural connotation to words and their meanings and their interpretation. And coupled with English as a second language, it becomes interesting, to say the least. And then people twist your words for making statements you didn't make. So things can get lost in translation, especially when someone wants to misunderstand you. Well, they're not actually telling you the exact truth. Because what people don't understand is, in a context of a mediumship reading, it's actually a three-way conversation. Spirit, medium, recipient, medium, spirit. And especially in context of language, the interaction becomes very important. It doesn't make people a fraud or a phony. It's just what it is, and necessary. So, what I will say to you is that I also draw people that I've never met before who are living and breathing. But that is the inspiration from the spirit world. Sometimes the case is that I've drawn the recipient of the reading who I've never met. And the only way that reading and that information will be delivered to the right person is through the image. And that's how in the spiritualist centers there were times when people knew who the reading was for, because unbeknownst to me, I had drawn the physical person the reading was for. I had never met them, and even if I did, do you think in my wildest imagination, I, not knowing who they are, would know anything about them in that context? That's where trust comes into. That, my friend, is also going outside of the grain of what people are doing. Then there is the case of what's been happening recently, and that is the spirit world has actually been connecting through me to actually show the world who their perpetrators actually were, and the reason they are or ended up in the world of spirit. That's not what people get trained to do. It's 2026. It's where I find myself. But to answer your inquiry, I can't speak for anyone else. I can just speak for myself. I got told we will connect and reconnect based on your life circumstances. And we will continue to connect for as long as it's necessary. These portraits have now become automatic, meaning I'm not thinking when I'm drawing, I'm just drawing. There are times I get told certain instructions and I follow them. It's necessary. What I mean by that is, there was a portrait I remember quite fondly. It was many years ago. So it wasn't photorealistic. It had to be crammed in to a service, which was an hour and a half. So it's quite basic in the scheme of things, which also includes writing down information, right? So very basic portraits. The recipient said after reading the information, he said, "You drawn my sister, who at that stage was still alive. But you've drawn her eyes weird, like she's a zombie. It's a bit disturbing." Got another knock. And I said I followed instructions. Now, there's a set of circumstances where this person could not be in the same vicinity as their sister. But the very last time I heard, when this lady was able to connect with her sister, unfortunately her sister had this vacant disturbing stare or gaze in her face as she was looking out into the distance. I'd never met her sister. The reason I'm sharing this is because I followed instructions and I drew a future unfoldment which neither I nor the recipient of that portrait had any plausible explanation for until the circumstances unfolded to where the portrait and the physical human being on that portrait met the reality that there again is doing something entirely different, not your stock standard training, and that's only possible by following the prompting and the nuances and the instructions in the most authentic, sincerest, genuine way from the spirit world. And that's what I do. 2018, got told you're going to be doing something very different. 2020, the introduction of portraiture, and also the stipulation that you're going to be doing something very different. Also, the added nuance that it's going to be photos from the spirit world, not portraits, photos, coupled with the fact that I didn't have the ability yeah, so anyway, I do what I do because I got gifted the ability to do it. I'll be the first one to tell you, I am the first person to be surprised with the unfoldment that happens before my own very eyes. I'm the biggest one that gets surprised. I hope this helps.